How y'all doing today? Look, I just want to say this. A lot of people have been talking about the Big 12, and they've been talking about how, the Big 12 is possibly in a situation for recruiting, and they're having woes for, the different predicaments that is going forward or is set to go forward with the structure changing, with the possibility or proposals of the new concept of paying for your players. Now, I'm a true believer that, that it's deserving of all athletes that are playing at the college level to be paid, compensated. Now, that amount should be determined based off of the merits and things like that. I believe it should be a fluctuating thing, not just like a set price, but that's fine, because that's like more of equality if you have just like a set price, a flat fee or a fight. But billions is being made off of these players' backs, and yes, there's definitely need to be like a compensation for that. So with that being said, I'm for athletes getting paid. Now, should there be a fine line between NIL numbers? There should be a max on the NIL to keep everything on a level playing field, because think about it. You don't want to have jealousy and envy on the field to where you're looking at a certain player like, he thinks he's this or he thinks he's that because he's making way more money than I am. And you don't want to create that type of atmosphere on the field, because it can lead to a lot of people being targeted. And we know how that is in the NFL. We don't want none of that type of stuff. So yes, I believe that there should be NIL rules that makes it to where players cannot receive extensive amounts of cash loads of money. It should be a reasonable amount that every player on the field should be able to be compensated though. And with that being said, it levels the recruiting playing field. We should focus on the talent of the players, not on how much money this player making and that. You don't want to muddy the waters like that, because you're destroying the fabric of college football and athletes as a whole. So you want to keep it level as possible. They should be paid, it should be level, and we should focus on the art of the sport. With that being said, right now it's currently set up to where there's 4 super conferences, literally the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC. There's a lot of issues going on with the ACC now. Some speculate that the ACC is going to crumble in the next 5 years or less. And with that being said, there's a lot of avenues that are being looked at, starting things off with the lawsuit of Florida State suing the ACC for damages in regards to representation, the grant of rights, so on and so forth, which is linked to ESPN. So how do ESPN play a role in this whole scheme of things? Well, Florida State was left out of the national playoffs this last year due to their quarterback being injured, which means that there was a good chance that they wasn't going to be competitive playing against Washington or whatever school they were supposed to be playing. So in turn, the next best team was Alabama. With that being said, that caused a lot of controversy. There was no representation from the ACC commissioner by the for Florida State, so they felt that their contract has been voided, or should I say, there's no representation there for them being as a member. So in turn, they would like to get out of the ACC. Now, how would that lead to? That's on a level of conference. There's also another level of suing the playoff structure by the state to look into the practices of the voting and the way that they do their selection of who goes to the playoffs or not. So that's 2 separate things going on. At the end of the day, this could lead a domino effect to other members that are known as the Magnificent Seven to put in their grievances on why they should also leave the conference. At the end of the day, it will be between ESPN, the grant of rights, and the ACC conference. Now, with that being said, you have ESPN looking at this as a whole. Now, when you look at the playoff selection, ESPN had a big influence on the viewership of the selection of games, or should I say the selection of teams to play in front of the national audience. Yes, Alabama was a bigger draw than Florida State. That led to a big reason why they were selected. Now, with that being said, we look at the fact that the SEC has been winning national championships due to Nick Saban. Well, we know that Nick Saban has just retired as of Wednesday. So with that being said, it throws another trick in the bag, because after he retired, it opens up the door for other coaches to come into Alabama. A lot of people question, is that the dooms part of the SEC reign moving forward? Now, there's other teams that'll step in their place. If Alabama's not doing so well, you have Georgia, you have South Carolina, and you also have LSU, as well as other teams that may flourish to the top. Overall, the SEC is a good branded conference. Now, what does this mean? Well, as the lawsuit continues with ESPN, or should I say the ACC and ESPN, because you got to remember the state is looking to the practices of the selection, while Florida State as a university is looking to the conference into getting out. All of this may set the stage for the next conference realignment. And the reason why is because it will negatively have an adverse reaction to the players that are currently in the conference and those who are finding a landing spot and those who potentially won't have one. And then it end up being like the Pac-12. Now, let's look at some of these teams. Who are some of these teams? Well, we have Florida State, we have Clemson, we have also Miami, we have NC State, we also have North Carolina and Duke. If I left a team out, let me know in the comment section. I believe those 6 teams definitely have a landing spot. The other ones will be second nature, like Louisville, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Oh, and Virginia, okay? Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and NC State. Those 7 schools potentially will have a place to go, supposedly. Now, with that being said, those look like the teams that would like to leave before this conference go to shamble, which we know that would contribute to them breaking up and becoming like another Pac-12, leaving 3 conferences. So where is these teams most likely to go? Here's my honest opinion on what I believe would happen if these things take place. The first thing I believe is Miami would be a good fit for the Big 12, not the Big 10, not the SEC. SEC don't need the Florida market as it already has. Miami is a smaller school, but a big brand. It's a private school, and they wouldn't really move the needle moving there. Plus, it will be too many Florida schools if you bring in FSU, which I do believe FSU will be the more likely candidate to go to the SEC. I doubt that they're going to go to the Big 10. Okay, I believe that Florida State and Virginia would be the 2 teams that would probably go to the SEC. Now, the Big 10 is particularly wanting these two teams, but it will settle. Just like in the case of when the Big 10 got USC and UCLA, but then they went on and settled for Oregon and Washington. right? They didn't really want them or need them, but they went on and got them because they could get them at a reasonable price. Likewise, the same thing for the Big Ten right now. They are focused on these two brands moving forward, but they will get the other ones at a discounted rate. First two selection would be Notre Dame and North Carolina. Those are the two schools that the Big Ten is interested in first priority. For the most part, those are the two brands. Now, does that mean that they won't add Florida and Clemson? Of course they would. They'll get them at a discounted rate, but their priority is Notre Dame and North Carolina. Those are the two teams they want. But here's the problem. The SEC also want North Carolina. So the Big Ten and the SEC both want North Carolina. And you know the Big 12 want North Carolina. You know they want them too. But who wants them the most? The Big Ten and the SEC. So North Carolina will be a fight for the SEC and the Big Ten. That's who they both honing in on. Period, point blank. Those teams right there. Now, the other thing to watch out for moving forward is, well, if the Big Ten get that victory with Notre Dame and North Carolina, they don't really care about the rest. They got their 20 teams, and that's a solid amount, and they have some good programs. All right, now let's look at the SEC. If the SEC can't get North Carolina, they most likely is going to get those two teams I mentioned, which would be the Virginia, or if they don't want to go up to Virginia and they can't get North Carolina, they're going to have to get Clemson and Florida just to keep the Big Ten from getting them two. And then they'll be in the SEC backyard. And we know that they don't want that. So that's why they would get them two teams. And the other thing is, if Notre Dame and North Carolina goes to the Big Ten, and then you have Florida State and Clemson go to the SEC, then that opens the doors up for the other schools. Well, the Big 12 will come in and get the Virginia schools, both of them, Virginia and Virginia Tech. They would get both of those schools, period. But if they can't get both, they'll get one, and then they'll go ahead and get Louisville. Those two teams will be on the radar of the Big 12 just based off of proximity and based off of what is needed to grow in other markets and would make more sense for the Big 12. With that being said, if you look at how you have the other schools like Miami, that's also on the Big 12 radar, okay? And then there was some schools mentioned like Georgia Tech. Now, Duke is the wild card. Why? Because they're only a basketball school. They're not a football program. And do you add that to bring value? I say Duke will be added because of a brand and because of basketball, period. Duke will not be left out. Duke will also be on the Big 12 radar, period. Duke will be on that radar. And so the teams I'm telling you will be on the radar of the Big 12 would be Miami, Duke, both Virginia schools, Louisville, and potentially, with a slim chance of margin, Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, did I say Georgia Tech? NC State and Georgia Tech. Those are the schools that are on the Big 12 radar. Miami, Louisville, the Virginia schools, both of them, or one, NC State and Georgia Tech. Period, point blank. And that's what's on the radar for the Big 12. For the SEC, they only want to pick up two programs, stay at 18. If it makes sense, they'll go to 20. But it's North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson, and Virginia. Those four schools. What if they can get both? They'll get both. I mean, they'll get Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson. While as I mentioned, The Big Ten, the Big Ten only have 2 slots that they would be interested in adding, and that's Notre Dame and North Carolina. They'll go ahead and get Florida State and Clemson as for a discounted price if possible. That guts the whole Big 12. That guts the whole ACC, leaving behind the 2 Pac-12 schools, SMU, and all of them other schools that play basketball, like the Wake Forests, the Boston Colleges, the Syracuse, and all of those schools. Now, they have the potential to survive and bring up some schools from the group of 5, but not to last or exist as a power conference, which leaving 3 super conferences, period, point blank. And I can truly see that happening within the next 5 years or so. Stay on the lookout for what will transpire for the ACC moving forward. Well, this is your 2024 beginning analysis for college football and college sports for the year coming up to date and moving forward. Once again, thank you all for watching Global News Sports. And until next time, don't forget to have a great day. And by the way, there will be a documentary that will be on Monday. Take a look at it, check it out, and I think it'll be good. Once again, and don't forget to check out our website, Size 11, for your purchases. We got merch on that website. Don't forget to go check that out and get y'all, merch for men, women, children, so on and so forth. Thank y'all once again for watching Global News Sports. Till next time, don't forget to have a great day.